In today's single season 23-24 rebuild, we're going to be taking a trip to Holland as we jump into the Amsterdam Arena and take control of Ajax. In 22-23, they finished in third place, finishing miles behind Feyenoord in what was a disappointing season for the team from the Dutch capital. In today's video, I'm going to try and close that gap as we rebuild Ajax for the 23-24 season. Looking at how Ajax set up at the beginning of the game, they play an attacking 4-2-3-1. They utilise both wingers to try and get the ball into the box whilst protecting their defence with two holding midfielders. Looking at some of the key players, first up, Kenneth Taylor. He's a bright prospect at 22 years old, quickly established himself at the core of Ajax's midfield. Steven Bergwijn is a well-known name after his time at Spurs. Quick, pacey winger should be a key part of how I will set this team up. Mohamed Kudus is another young player with a big future. At just 23, he is quick, strong and direct and will only get better as time goes on. Finally, we have Brian Broby up top, 22 years old, direct, strong and already plays his game as a complete forward. Looking at the finances, we have 30 million to improve the squad, and with no need to move players on, I can try and spend the money wisely. We are right at the limit though for wages, so I might have to convert some of that transfer funds into the wage budget. The board are looking to have a successful season. They want progress in the Europa League and they want us to win the Eredivisie whilst also challenging in the domestic cups. With a clear picture of everything going on at the club, we are now in a position to head to the first transfer window. Let's see what business we can do in the summer transfer window. With us not needing to move players on, I concentrated on strengthening the squad. The first player signed was Josip Sotalo. At 24 years old, he's the perfect fit for the club. He's tall, strong and athletic. Following him in through the door was Bosco Sotalo. He looks a carbon copy of Josip and both will give us a strong centre-back pairing. Next up is wonder kid Gianluca Prestiani. He's a quick, dynamic winger who will give defenders nightmares and he's a big name to watch out for in the future. And the final signing was goalkeeper Yassine Bono. With Ajax's goalkeeping options being so-so, he can come in and be a genuine contender for the #1 shirt straight away. And with all those through the door, we are left with £2.6 million in the bank and a good amount of room in the wages budget. With all of our business complete in the summer transfer window, we are now going to kick the season off as we head for the first part of the season. Let's see everything that happened in the build-up to January the 1st. We kicked off the season on the Champions League path. Even though the board said that they wanted us to be competitive in the Europa League, we actually played in the Champions League. We started off though with a 5-0 win against Partizan. We also won by the same score in the return leg to advance to the next round. The next game was the Johan Cruyff Skull. We beat Feyenoord in that game 2-1. Back in Champions League action, we would batter Celtic 8-2 over the two legs. Despite scoring for fun against Celtic though, we were humbled by Emmen at the start of the league campaign. It was only a blip though, as we bounced back to win 5-0 against Heerenveen. In the Champions League, we weren't playing well though. We were losing 2-0 to Milan and then had a 3-1 loss to Bayern. But after that defeat, we went on a good run with wins that included a 5-0 against Twente, a 4-2 victory against Rangers in the Champions League, 6-0 against Alkmaar, 5-0 against Sparta Rotterdam, before another defeat to Bayern in the Champions League. Once again, this caused us to wake up and run into January included a 6-1 win, a 2-1 win away at Milan and a 6-0 win against Heracles. That run of games meant that on January the 1st we were sat top of the Eredivisie. We were 5 points clear of PSV and 9 points clear of Feyenoord. We had however been knocked out of the Champions League, meaning we would now be bumped into the Europa League. Looking at the Eredivisie, we have a record of 17 played, 14 won, 2 draws and 1 loss. In the Champions League, we had played 6, won 3 and lost the other 3. Looking at our summer signings, Bosco Sotalo managed to play 18 games in the first half of the season. Josip Sotalo played in 26 games in total and has now forced his way into being a first team regular. Yassine Bono did take over as #1 goalkeeper. He has played 29 times, conceding 22 goals, but has played really well behind our new look defence. A look at the club vision tab shows that our job security is stable. We received a B- from the board for our efforts so far. Getting knocked out of the Champions League seems to have been their main concern. Going into the January window, we have 13 million in the bank to strengthen the squad in the winter transfer window. With the first part of the season now complete, we are going to be moving on to the winter transfer window. Let's see if we can add any reinforcements to our squad as we look to kick on in the second half of the season. To kick off the winter transfer window, we allowed Dusan Tadic to join Milan before Chelsea came along and activated Alvarez's minimum release clause, and that allowed him to move to the Premier League. To replace him, we signed another Mexican, with Cesar Montes joining the club. We then strengthened our attack by signing Andrea Pinamonti. With that business done, it meant that on January the 31st, we are still sat at the top of Eredivisie, having played 20 games and have now reached 50 points. With the January transfer window now shut, our squad is complete until the end of the season. Let's kick on into the second half of the season and see how we got on. We started off the second half of the season in fine form. We beat Willem Drey 4-0 in the Dutch Cup before progressing to the round of 16 in the Europa League. We beat Hoffenheim 3-2 on aggregate. We beat PSV 5-1 to reach the Dutch Cup final. And we beat Betis 4-0 at home before a wobble away, losing 3-2. But we did progress to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Back in the Eredivisie, we beat Volendam 4-1 and Alkmaar 4-2. Before our best game of the season, as we dismantled Chelsea 6-1 at home, and despite losing away, we reached the semi-finals of the Europa League. We captured the Dutch Cup, beating Feyenoord 1-0 in the final, before we beat Aston Villa home and away to win 6-2 in the Europa League semi-finals. That led to us going to Dublin to play Napoli, where we would win the Europa League 3-2 in the final. So at the end of a brilliant season, we have won the treble. We have won the Eredivisie by 13 points from Feyenoord, and we have added the Dutch Cup and the Europa League for a fantastic trophy haul. In the Eredivisie, we won 28 of 34, we drew 4 times and lost only twice. On the Club Vision page, we only score a B, with the board upset about our transfer policy despite our success, and they held on to our Champions League failure. Finally, our look at our signings. Prestiani found it hard to break into the first team. Bosco and Josip Sutalo were both brilliant signings. Both were reliable when they were called upon. Andrea Pinamonti played a key role in the second half of the season. He scored some really important goals when needed. And Cesar Montes managed to play 24 games and was brilliant as a replacement for Alvarez. So all in all, this has been a brilliant single season rebuild. So with our single season now complete at Ajax, we have had a fantastic single season rebuild. We have gone on to win the Eredivisie. We have regained our status as the best club in Holland. We have also won the Dutch Cup and the Europa League to help us to a treble. An absolutely fantastic club to have a rebuild at. Right then, if you're still with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you don't mind hitting that like and subscribe button to help the channel out, I really would appreciate it. Watching the channel grow across the past couple of months has been so good. It's all down to people like yourself who come to the channel, interact and help the channel to grow. Before you do go, don't forget to check out the rest of the channel. There are other things such as hints, tips, tutorials, wonder kids, let's plays. There is something for everybody right here on the channel. But for this one, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you for watching. I'll see you on another video very soon.